Tony, do we have all of the board members present? I don't see Bailey yet. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Angela Ryder, Chair of the Arizona State Board of Massage Therapy. It is Monday, August 29th, 2022 at 9 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Folks on this video conference, please mute yourselves until it is your opportunity to speak or if you've been called upon to eliminate any distractions of background noise. The chair of the Arizona State Board of Massage Therapy reserves the right to change the order of items published on this agenda, except for public hearings set for a specific time. During the board meeting, and upon a vote of the majority of the quorum, the board may go into executive session to obtain legal advice from the board's attorney pursuant to ARS 38431.03A3 on any items listed on the agenda. All meeting attendees whose presence is not required in an executive session may remain in the board meeting room while the board withdraws to chambers for an executive session. Any and all legal action by board members will only take place in open session. In accordance with open meeting law, the board has a civility policy that prohibits any type of disorderly conduct that disrupts the board from carrying out its business. Individuals found violating this policy will be asked to modify their behavior and act civilly, and if the disorderly conduct continues, the person may be removed from the meeting. Mr. Augerton, will you please call roll?
Yes. Board Member Tapscott?
Here.
Board Member DeRoost?
Present.
Vice Chair Moon?
Present.
Chair Ryder?
Present.
4 present, 1 vacant.
Thank you. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, the board may make an open call to the public during the public meeting, subject to a reasonable time, which is 3 minutes, place and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on any issues within the jurisdiction of the public body. However, members of the board are not allowed to discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. The board, however, may ask staff to review a particular matter or may ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. Be advised that a call to public is not an opportunity for testimonies for cases that are being reviewed by the board. Do we have a call to public? You may raise your hand on the video conference at this time. Garnet Adair, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please go ahead. And unmute yourself, please.
Thank you.
Of course.
I've got this written out. As positive cases of the monkeypox virus is increasing at a noticeable rate, there is evidence that this virus is transmitted through skin-to-skin contact with the public. I also understand that this virus can be transmitted via respiratory droplets. A person I know in the medical field suggested that massage therapists should have some sort of barrier to our skin-to-skin contact with our clients, aka gloves, plus a continuation of wearing face masks in our treatment rooms. Since this board had a presentation a couple years ago by the Department of Health Services regarding the COVID virus, I respectfully ask this board to consider asking them to do a presentation at an upcoming board meeting regarding safety measures for massage therapists related to the monkeypox virus. That's it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Garnet. Board staff, could we please add that for a future agenda? And I did see another hand up, I believe, Andy Kearney. Did I see that name correctly?
Yes, sorry. No, I was just confused. I was just saying I'm present and listening. Sorry.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Do we have any other call to public?
Me?
Okay,
Becky
please go
Whitmore?
ahead, Becky.
Hi. Uh, I am walking to the board meeting. I have my license due uh, tomorrow is my birthday, and I am bringing you the money, and I already submitted the application. Is there a way that it can be approved?
There is a process. That's not something that we take care of during a call to public.
Okay,
Our board meeting is currently virtual right now. The people at the building will be able to guide you.
thank you.
Do we have any other call to public at this time? Okay, thank you. The board members should have had an opportunity to review the board packet for today. Are there any conflicts of interest besides my own that I will mention in a moment? Okay, let it be known that I will be recusing myself from item 8D on the agenda, and Vice Chair Mariah Moon will chair that portion of the agenda. We have not yet obtained the massage board open minutes, so I would like to table the approval of the open meeting minutes from June 27th and
Tomorrow.
July 25th until our next board meeting on September 26th, 2022. And Tony, if you wouldn't mind making sure that everybody is muted, I would have greatly appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Assistant Attorney General Seamus Monahan. I'm just trying to hedge you off here. I know that you're getting close to your presentation. So there is a preliminary matter today, and as you know, our IA has resigned, our permanent IA. So we do have an IA from the Attorney General's office here today. So if we could quickly take that formal hearing preliminary matter first before the presentation, that way the IA doesn't have to hang on the call.
Yes, I have no issues with that at all.
Perfect.
Let me just go right to that on the agenda here. And this is regarding case number 22-148, Mai Kyung Kramer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And please go ahead and proceed with the information that you would like to share with the board.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is a preliminary matter to this hearing. During the prep for the hearing and getting witnesses together, it was determined that staff, a previous investigator had started this case, second investigator picked it up. In the process, we determined that one of the police reports we didn't know we didn't have was actually the police report we needed in order for the witnesses to testify to, and it pertains to relevant violations that were not included regarding Ms. Kramer. I have spoken with her. I don't see her on the call. She did not oppose the motion. So I'm just asking that the board would vacate the hearing in this matter and remand it back to investigations so that the board can contemplate that police report and the further violations against Ms. Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. I move to honor the state's request to vacate the hearing for Mai Kyung Kramer, case number 22148, scheduled for today, Monday, August 29th, and remand the matter back to further investigation as more evidence has been presented.
This is Board Member Tapscott. I second that.
And a roll call vote, please, Mr. Algerton.
Yes, Madam Chair. Board Member DeRoost,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moon,
Aye.
Board Member Tapscott,
Aye.
Chair Ryder,
Aye.
4 ayes.
The motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have the wonderful Christine Hoober, who has been an advocate of the massage profession for more than 4 years. She monitors legislation and regulatory changes in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, as well as assisting in local ordinance issues. Christine works closely with the AMTA state chapters and registered lobbyists to uphold industry standards. Christine, thank you for joining us today. The virtual floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you guys all for having me today. I really appreciate it. I was asked to just give a general update on sort of what the landscape looks like across the country. I know that when you're in your state, you can have kind of a myopic view of sort of the issues and concerns you all have. But it's nice to pull back and look at what everyone's got going on. I think you'll see running themes. So yeah, let's kick it off. Next slide, please. We'll just go right into it. So this is ongoing for us. So not all 50 states are licensed. We are still missing Minnesota, Kansas, and Wyoming. And California is like, I always count that as it's, we call it a mandatory voluntary certification. We would like to see that turned over to actual licensure. So, so 2022, we, did what we always do. We fought pretty hard to try to get those bills passed. Both Minnesota and Kansas. It was an interesting year because most years we have a lot of industry infighting. We have massage therapists who don't think we should be licensed. We have just a lot of pushback, and this was kind of the first year that both those states, everyone was on board. Everyone was good with it. Maybe a little bit of pushback from law enforcement in Kansas and Minnesota. We just have one lawmaker that held up a committee hearing. But for the most part, I think we suffered from some post-COVID issue fatigue. I mean, essentially, people are sick of hearing about it. No one was real jazzed. There were other things that were perceived as being more important. So we're at the end of the 2-year cycle on both those bills. So we're submitting those to be drafted and get new bill numbers and kind of coming up with some new grassroots ways we can push those forward. And I'm an eternal optimist, so I'm always like, 2023, it's going to be our year. So Wyoming, the exciting thing was that this was the first year we actually had a bill. And Wyoming is it is an OG live free or die state. Like, they are not super excited about licensure. So the fact that we even got a bill and that we got a sponsor and we have a committee sponsor and they're kind of excited is like, it's a big deal. So, we're on step 1 of step 100. So we'll see, but that was exciting. And then California, we testified during their sunset process for CAMTC. And as I said, that's a, voluntary certification process. And CAMTC was initially meant to be, a stepping stone towards licensure. So however many, I always forget how many years they've been around, 10 years or whatever. It was meant to be, we'll start here and we'll transition to licensure. And so we continue to advocate for that. We're like, this was never meant to be a permanent solution. I hear from neighboring states all the time about their concerns with, massage therapists that go into that state because it's easy to run through a diploma mill, get their certification and then blaze on out to another state and become a problem. I mean, that we know that you guys being so close know this to be true. So one thing I'm going to work really hard on, and they have been passed for another, actually that slide's wrong. It's 4 years, not 5 years. So for another 4 years, we have voluntary certification. But one thing that I want to try to focus on with all my states, just to make sure it's clear, is people go, well, why does licensure matter? Why isn't this certification good enough? And I hear the interchangeability. People will use both terms to thinking they mean the same thing. And a certification is not the same as a license. A certification does not allow, I have a ridiculous document, so I'm trying to like give it to you in bite-sized pieces because this is a topic I could literally go on an hour about. So licensure provides these things to the profession that a certification does not. Government oversight, so a board such as yourselves that can actually regulate the profession. You all can create rules. You can create standards for which you will decide if someone is able to get a license. The scope of practice, when California does not have a scope of practice, that's problematic. The Practice Act grants authority to a board to oversee compliance and enforcement and investigative processes, as we just saw, and can impose disciplinary actions. And sorry, losing my place. And additionally, it offers the clearest pathway for massage therapists to be able to work in other states, and especially with the interstate compact that we've been working on, that FSMTV is, led the charge on that one, and there's a lot of stakeholders involved. This is really important. We want this to be a portable profession. We want it to be easy for a licensed massage therapist that has, they have been doing everything right. They have their CEs, they have their education. They should be able to move to another state with their spouse, or just because they want to move, and not have those issues and burdens and holdups. And if we are not all licensed, that's going to be really hard for a lot of folks. So that's kind of where we are at towards licensure, and a little brief explanation as to why AMTA is part of licensure. Next slide, please. So I always like to talk about the wins we've had, because, in the government relations world, we're used to losing a lot. We're good losers. So when there's good things, I like to kind of shout them from the rooftops. So in Indiana, we had been working with them on their rulemaking around a bill that had passed. I believe it passed in 2016, transferring their certified massage therapists to licensed massage therapists, and the rules just passed. So it took a long time. There was a lot of holdups. Some of it was kind of a dysfunctional board, so we were able to get some new board members up, and that went into effect in July. So Indiana massage therapists are super excited because they are now licensed massage therapists. Maryland's kind of a similar thing, have been working on getting rid of they had a 2-tier licensing system, which we never recommend. And they had been trying to dismantle that for years. And we started having some great productive meetings with their board, with our chapter, with other stakeholders. And we had, through COVID, monthly Zoom meetings working on language and trying to figure out how are we going to grandfather in these certified massage practitioners and have everyone on the same tier. We still have to get through the rulemaking process, but the law's passed. They're single tier, so that was awesome. Iowa, I was very proud of my Iowa chapter because this was an initiative that they came up with. They wanted a bill to require mandatory reporting of suspected child or adult dependent abuse, and that bill passed handily. And again, we like to see our chapters kind of do things to elevate the profession and just who we are as people. And then the last one that was a big win, and a lot of people I don't think we're quite aware of, is we were able to eliminate a NACUS code. So NACUS, I always have to I talk about this stuff all day long, and people go, I don't know what you're talking about. So I had to again pull up a little blur. So so sorry, wrong page. Okay. So it's the North American Industry Classification System, and it's used by the federal government. It's just how you classify your business establishment. So for a while there were 2 classifications for massage and 1 used massage parlor, and we have been working for several years to have that eliminated, and this year we did. So yeah, so now we have the term is massage establishment, where it's appropriate to describe non-medical services to provide in a day spa type setting. So if you own a spa, you can now say you have a massage establishment, not a parlor. So that was a pretty big win, considering this was a federal agency, and they are notoriously, difficult. A lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. Not my favorite thing to deal with. So so that was a big win, and we were pretty excited about it. Next slide. So for every success, we've got like a few failures or a few fights. So Kentucky passed House Bill 8, and this is an ongoing fight right now because it did pass, but now we're in rulemaking. So they want to require 6% sales tax on non-medically necessary massage. What does that mean? Nobody knows. Lawmakers don't know. Bill writers don't. No one seems to be able to give an example or a definition of what non-medically necessary means. This may work in our favor. We've heard we've had some good conversations and kind of those on the down low, that you didn't hear this from me, conversations from lawmakers that because of the muddiness of it, it might wind up being a nothing burger. It might get taken out, but it's concerning because we are seeing this. We are seeing this push to potentially unnecessarily tax massage, and so all it takes is one state to have a bill that's a bad idea, and for other states to go, oh my God, that's a great idea, and it just snowballs from there. So we try to head that stuff off the path. So we're the good news is we have a great lobbyist in that state. We will be involved in any rulemaking that does move forward, and stay tuned on that one. House Bill 81 in Ohio is trying to close a loophole in the Practice Act that allows for, I'm so confusing, I always have to look at it. It's individuals can perform massage as long as they do not call what they are doing massage therapy or advertise their practice as medical or therapeutic. So it's this relaxation loophole. And I'm sure you can let your imaginations run wild with how bad that is. So we have been working, it's been now 3-ish years, I think, to get that loophole closed. It is in a committee right now. It's, again, looking favorable. We're hoping 2023 it will be passed and we can get that language changed. But it's been slow. Rhode Island, these were some interesting bills. House Bill 7131 and Senate Bill 2611. They're stalled right now, but the idea was to require the Rhode Island Department of Health to create a pamphlet that medical practitioners would have to give to clients, educating them on alternatives to opioids for pain management. And massage therapy would be specifically listed in those alternatives, and that's huge. And that is something that we work really hard for in all states and at the federal level. So we sent a lot of letters and information in to those committee members, and we are going to continue to pursue that this coming session in hopes of getting that passed, because I think that sets a great example for other states. Next slide, please. And on that same note, we work to be recognized as healthcare practitioners. So some of you may know or may not know that the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs recognize massage therapy as an effective treatment for chronic pain, as well as for PTSD, for anxiety. And the VA has established GS5 through GS9 positions for state licensed massage therapists. And then that's another really good reason why we want to see licensure, because I live in Kansas, my state's not licensed, so Kansas veterans do not get to take advantage of that covered benefit. So we would like to see all of our veterans that have sacrifice so much, be able to get that help. In North Carolina, we've been working with Carolina Complete Health to create a pathway for licensed massage therapists to provide in lieu of services for residents of the state. Again, in lieu of going to a pain management physician who would prescribe medications, they can go instead to a massage therapist for a certain number of visits. And so that is being onboarded as we speak. And in Washington State, EvaCore is a third-party company that kind of helps bridge the gap between healthcare and insurance companies. And it's a pretty complex process. So we've been working with them on creating some presentations to show to our members to help them figure out how they can, they can be covered by insurance. So this is going to be a much longer process. So I'm not sure when that's going to be rolled out. But these are all positive things with that can be applied in other states and hopefully in your state soon. Next slide, please. Was there a question before I move on? Did we want to wait to the end?
About that. We will only take questions from the board members and not the public after your presentation is.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. I saw that pop up and I'm like, should I stop? Okay. Sure. That's fine because I always need a pause before I talk about Utah because I'm like, my eye might start getting twitchy. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with what went on in Utah this session, SB 180. As I like to call it, the bill that nearly broke me. So there were a couple of spa owners. This was last late fall, early winter, about maybe 4 of them that retained a lobbyist, pulled their money together, and decided that they did not have enough, there were not enough massage therapists coming out of school for them to, they didn't have enough employees, which is untrue information. We were able to get the numbers of how many massage therapists had graduated in the last year. And it really what it boiled down to is they wanted to be able to have cheap labor. They didn't want to pay the going rate. So they got a lobbyist. They found a fairly powerful sponsor within the Senate and wrote in my 4 years of experience, the worst bill I have ever seen. The short Reader's Digest version is that any massage therapist in the state that had 6,000 hours of experience, so that includes your work experience and your education, could have up to 6 massage assistants in training under you that you would educate 125 to 150 hours. There would be no exam. We didn't even know what the curriculum would look like, but as some of you on the board, I know are massage therapists, so you can imagine 125 to 150 hours. It's not covering much. And the public, the really concerning part is that the public would not know. You go into a spa and they go, well, here's this massage assistant's going to give you an hour-long massage. And this person, you would have no way of knowing that they are essentially completely untrained. They certainly don't know contraindications. There's so many opportunities for injury, for some ethically gray behavior. I mean, it was just absolutely awful. The really scary part was that it passed. The bill passed. Through some pretty shady means, but it passed. The only good bright spot for us was that in their efforts to try to keep us on our toes, there were probably about 6 versions of this bill. So when it passed on the House floor, one lawmaker had one version of the bill, and the intern keeping track of things had another version of the bill. And you write your notes and you sign off on it. So when those didn't match, when they were 2 different versions, it got tossed out. So the bill died on a clerical error, which I found intensely amusing. So the bill was done but not dead, as I like to say, sort of like at the end of a horror movie where you know the killer's not dead, he's just hiding behind a door. So so we kept hearing rumblings that it might be heard in special session in August. Knock on wood, it has not yet. And again, I'm hearing those rumblings that it probably won't be. However, it will not surprise me to see this bill reintroduced in January. And I mean, I will be surprised if it's not. So this is going to be an ongoing fight. And again, we certainly don't want to see this pass near any state where there's been even a whisper of deregulation or a state that's going to go through a sunset. We do not want to give anyone any bad ideas. And this isn't, and what's terrifying to me about this for the industry is it's not a straight up deregulation. I call it sneaky deregulation because it's just chipping away at the standards. And so a lawmaker can be like, well, we're not getting rid of licensure. We're just making it easier. Like, well, but you are getting rid of it. It's a licensure in name only, and it's not protecting the public. It's not doing what licensure is supposed to do. So that was a really hard fight and got very ugly. And I don't think we're done by any means. And I do expect to see similar bills start to pop up around the country because that's kind of what happens. And then Oklahoma has been another state that kind of we've had deregulation fights each year. They never get too far. And this year it was there were about 20 shell bills that had massage therapy in the title, but they were, empty. We kind of waited thinking there was going to be like, oh, here we go. And thankfully the legislature got busy with other stuff. So that didn't get pushed. We had one negative bill that was going to get rid of the exam requirement. So they didn't want to have the MBLEX or any exam anymore. They were going to get rid of the liability insurance requirement. I can't remember a couple others. It was changing some of the language that was problematic. And we were able to pretty quickly eliminate that. But our lobbyists in that state has said, buckle in because it's going to be worse in 2023. So this, we have fights every year. We're always playing defense. There are some trends that are concerning. And this is why I love the opportunity to be able to come and talk to boards and let you guys know what's going on, and that, AMTA, we represent our members, but we love to have relationships with everybody involved because, as I say I work with our competitor, ABMP, I work with their government relations gal, and she and I say all the time, we're stronger together. And I really firmly believe that. So, and I think that's my last slide. Is there one more? I did these so late yesterday. See if there's another slide. Oh yes, here we go. This is what I'm already talking about. So yeah, sorry, I traveled all last week, so I'm still getting my sea legs. So yes, interstate compact will be a thing moving into 2023. I don't have any updates on that. It's still in the comment phase. I think that's coming to an end. If any of you haven't read through it, I'm sure you all have, but if you haven't, you should. We have several states going into sunset that, we are always here to help with. And I didn't talk a lot about it, but we do a lot of work on local ordinances. So if any of you or your members or anybody listening has any issues with a local ordinance that's requiring a massage therapist to provide, additional information that the board's already asked you for. I mean, the board's pretty thorough. And if you've got a city telling you, well, we need an additional background check and we need this and this and this, we do want to hear about it because we're working pretty hard to kind of chip away at some of that. Some of these ordinances were written in the 70s, so the language is just appalling. So that's something that we continue to work on. So please feel free to reach out to me with anything you may have heard of or need help with. I mean, that's what we're here for. So
Thank
I
you
believe-
so much. Christina, on that note too, I know you and I have talked a little bit about some of the local ordinances that we have here in Arizona, because we do have cities that require massage therapists to get regularly fingerprinted, not just the individual massage therapists, but massage therapy establishments as well,
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And I'm hoping, and we'll have more information hopefully in our September meeting, but I'm hoping that with the passing of the fingerprint clearance cards that will be initiated January of next year, that could potentially eliminate the need or want of these regular fingerprint background checks in our local municipalities.
Absolutely. I mean, and if it absolutely should. I mean, will it still require some discussions? Probably.
Yes, and a little bit more work too. But just for those who are on the call who are license holders, that is something that is being worked on. It's not being ignored. I've heard the calls and the pleas and the complaints of people who are like, well, I have to get fingerprinted every year, and it's not fair. Fingerprints don't change. We know this, but the clearance card would definitely eliminate the need for that, I would think.
Yeah, I agree.
You had answered quite a few of the questions that I had already prepared to ask you. Some of them being, about states trying to deregulate massage. And it doesn't seem like there are a whole lot of states trying to deregulate at this point. It's just, a couple of them.
It's a couple there, but it's always the threats there. I mean, you always know in your head which states, if they had an opening man, they would take it in a heartbeat. So it's always there, and we work really hard to just continue to have conversations with lawmakers to, remind them of the importance and how vocal our members get under threat of deregulation.
Yes, definitely. Do you see more states trying to close the loopholes that you mentioned in your presentation? And I ask that too, because I find that as an industry, and a lot of the states having legislation that had been written decades ago, that it's time for a little bit of evolution, because some of the rules and regulations that were written that long ago, the bad actors are using some loopholes to get around the rules and regulations.
This is something we always talk about. The only problem is when you open up a practice act, that there's a whole lot of opportunity for that to go really wrong. And so we don't, from AMTA standpoint, we don't like to open a practice act unless we are sure we have full support from the legislature that they're not interested in deregulating or reducing standards. So that's sort of, you get in this kind of holding pattern where, you just kind of wait for the climate to be better. So there's a few states we would like to see language cleanup for sure. But we haven't yet had the opportunities to do so in a way that we feel isn't opening ourselves up to just everything going sideways.
Right. I know that you had mentioned in your presentation in Utah, the bill that was trying to deregulate, and it was presented by franchises. Is that correct?
It wasn't franchise. It was just, it was like 4 business owners, and they owned like day spas and so they were not, no, franchises were for the most part against it. And I think Hand and Stone sent a letter to the governor. We did communicate with Massage Envy and Massage Heights. I mean, they were most of them were concerned, but they didn't get quite as, I don't know how active they got in them.
Sure.
We were pretty loud.
Yeah, I know that, I hear across the state and in other states too, that business owners, employers are struggling to get massage therapists to work. And from my perspective, I don't think it's necessarily, a lack of massage therapists coming into the industry. But I think since COVID has happened, what I'm seeing is more massage therapists are choosing to be self-employed or set stronger boundaries on how many massages they can perform in a day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that because we like I said, in Utah, we work really closely with their board, and they were able to get all the numbers of how many massage therapists are in the state, how many have graduated from all the schools. And it was, couldn't tell you the numbers right now, but at the time I remember being surprised, like, that's a lot. And, you know, and again, that it came down to these businesses that were complaining what they wanted to pay someone and how many massages they expected in a day was just unreasonable. And so, you know, I mean, I know people, you know, kind of will dump on the franchises and say they don't pay well enough. Well, they pay a whole lot better than what some of these businesses wanted to pay. And those are typically the kind of starting off places, at least in my experience with a brand new therapist, is like, I'm going to go work at Massage Envy for, you know, a year and kind of, you know, get some clients, get some experience. And yeah, the majority are solo practitioners because you can set your own hours. You can, you know, you can set your wage, and you can be a little more competitive in what you make. And that's how this business works. So
Sure.
these
I
people
I work for a franchise as well, and I find that it's all about the relationship that you have with that franchise owner.
Yeah.
As far as setting those boundaries. And I think massage therapists are, developing a voice to set those boundaries. And I think when they realize that they can be heard, it's really just about having a conversation about how many massages can be performed in a day comfortably.
It's not, I mean, that's why I tell people, like, this is not a 40-hour-a-week job. And,
Right.
And I was, prior to this life, I was an Iyengar trained yoga instructor. So people would be like, oh, you make this much a class, you can just do this full time. Like, I found that 14 classes a week was too much for me. That was where I was like, okay, I'm going to break something. It's not doable. It's not sustainable. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand. They just assume it's like a regular 9-to-5 job. And it's like, no, it's physically demanding. It's emotionally demanding. You're giving so much of yourself. And so I think that's what outraged me so much about the Utah bill, was that it was treating potential massage therapists as just this commodity, as this, sweatshop worker. And it's like, no, that's not what massage is. It's not what our industry is. And that is also not how you treat any human being. So.
Right. Thank you. Do any of the board members have any comments or questions for Christine today? Mr. Tapscott.
Christine, you already said this, so I'm asking some leading questions for very clear statements from you.
Okay.
So please speak freely. But I just want so if a state legislature was very pro public safety, in your opinion, then they should be very against deregulation.
Yes.
Okay.
Theoretically.
No, I just yes, in a perfect world. And I'm assuming if they're very pro public safety, they should be very pro a strong, dedicated massage board as well.
Yes. Again, theoretically.
Theoretically, yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all.
Okay.
Very, very good questions, Mr. Tapscott. Thank you. Bailey or Mariah, do you have any comments or questions for Christine?
No comments, but thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, same as board member Durst, and I don't have any questions or comments, but that was enlightening. Thank you.
No problem.
Christine, thank you so much for your time today. You are welcome to roam the earth, or you're welcome to stay and join us for the rest of our meeting. But thank you again.
About 500 emails to get through from last week, so I'm gonna go tackle
Don't
that.
have too much fun with that.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Next on our agenda, board review discussion and possible action on current board policy permitting 3 hours of continuing education. once during the biennial licensing period for meeting attendance. So we bring this up because over the last couple of years, the board had made some policy changes in response to the pandemic. As per the governor's order, mandates have been lifted and are required to return as they were prior to the pandemic. One of the policies that we had accommodated were those of continuing education, returning to a minimum of 12 live CE hours and 12 maximum online CEs beginning January of 2023. One of the oversights was the issue of the CE credits attending board meetings. During the pandemic, this had been changed to 3 hours annually for attending a board meeting. According to Article 3, Continuing Education R4-15-301-6, for each renewal period, no more than 3 hours for attendance at a board meeting. If the licensee obtains a document that states the license attended a minimum of 3 hours at a board meeting, the date of the board meeting, and the signature of the board's chair or executive director, the licensee may claim only the actual number of hours attended by the licensee for a maximum of 3 hours. I would like to discuss with the board members and vote on returning to our original statute of 3 hours issued biannually or once per renewal. It has been recommended that we consider a date in the very near future as the mandates have been lifted and everything is to return to as it was pre-pandemic. We should also discuss when this should be affected. And I would like to ask the board members if you have any suggestions or ideas as to when we should implement this fairly, so that the 3 hours for attending a board meeting are only happening once per renewal.
This is Chairperson Tapscott. Do we only want 3 hours once per renewal? Do we have that choice? I'm just, I'm very in favor of attending board meetings often. I don't mean for myself because I sit on the board. I meant for my students seem to learn more from watching board meetings than they do from listening to me, which either means this is highly educational or I'm a terrible teacher. But I would like to go with the fact that it means the board meetings make laws and valuing human beings become a visceral experience. And so that's the reason I asked that question.
No, so my understanding is because this is in our rules and statutes, we cannot change the amount of hours or how often it happens. So it's really just a matter of going back to what is originally stated in our rules and statutes.
What's a realistic deadline to implement this? How quickly?
That is a great question, and I don't know how many people are taking advantage of using the board meetings as 3 hours of continuing education. It's been recommended strongly that because the mandates have been lifted, that we return as soon as possible. However, I do want people to have an opportunity to get one last one in if needed. So I'm open to suggestions. My personal opinion, I would say by October 1st. So that way so people have an opportunity to get one more in by the end of the year. But again, I am open to suggestions of something different.
Good. This board person, Tapscott, could I recommend maybe the first of the year? I realize that's a longer time thing. It's not about even getting the meetings in. It's about getting the information out to the public. And, these are 2-year renewals, and that's really just 3 months. And it just seems like a fairly reasonable amount of time for people to make adjustments.
I agree with you, Mr. Tapscott. And the only reason why I had suggested October is I'm not sure how much trouble we would get in by waiting that long. Perhaps our Assistant Attorney General, Mr. Ogreton, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the board, right now you are already phasing out the 24 hours of continuing education being allowed to be online as of December 31st. So you could just add this to be a common deadline for what had been the previous exceptions under the COVID pandemic. And then starting January 1st of next year, 12 hours are again required per statute in person. 12 hours may be taken online. And then you may take 3 hours at attending a board meeting during your upcoming renewal cycle.
I think that's very fair. I would like to, does anybody want to create that motion, or I'll do it? All right, I move to return to the 3 continuing education hours by attending a board meeting, return back to once per renewal, starting January 1st of 2023. 3Es annually will no longer be available. It will return to 3 CE hours per renewal starting January 1st, 2023.
This is Vice Chair Moon. I'll second that motion.
And a roll call vote, please, Mr. Ogreton.
Board Member DeRoost,
Aye.
Board Member Tapscott,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moon,
Aye.
Chair Ryder.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes.
The motion passes. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, board review, discussion, and possible action of increase of federal and state rejection of submitted licensing fingerprints, applicant notification requirement for additional $22 processing fee, recommendation of digitized fingerprints. I'm going to defer to Investigator Elson on this one. Investigator Elson, could you please share with the board members and the public what you had shared previously with me in regards to the fees that the board has to pay every time a fingerprint card is rejected?
Yes, Madam Chair. So upon initial application for a licensure, the board charges $22 because that's what we're charged by DPS and APHIS to submit their fingerprints for the background check. The problem we're running into is people are trying to do it themselves, or their school. I talked to a school that was actually trying to fingerprint their own people and have since changed because they kept getting rejected. But every time a fingerprint gets rejected and they send us a new fingerprint card, we're charged another $22. They're not. We're charged. So I've got some people that it's taken them 5 times to get a good set of prints approved. So we've essentially paid $100 over their initial $22 that the board's eaten.
Understood.
So now I had proposed earlier that when we send out a deficiency notice that your fingerprints were rejected, we require an additional $22 every time you send prints in.
Historically, has the board charged for so you'd mentioned that the board is eating the cost of these redos. So we've not been charging the applicants for these redos of the fingerprints. Okay. And what is your final recommendation to reduce the rejections from happening, first of all?
There's an art to it. Used to be everybody had to be fingerprinted in ink. And I can tell you as a prior law enforcement officer, that is an art to fingerprinting somebody in ink and not getting it all over everywhere in your uniform and the card. And the newer officers don't know how to do that correctly because the bigger departments and most sheriff's office have what's called live scan. So they walk up to a machine that looks like a photocopier. They open the screen and they roll the print on the glass and it prints it from the glass to the card. But a lot of our rejections are still coming from people that are going to their small town police department and rolling them in ink, and then they get kicked out. They're rejected. So I think Executive Director Councilman Augerman has put on the website that we recommend live scan.
And
So
my understanding too is with live scan that if your fingerprints get rejected, they will redo the prints for no charge.
well, on the card we send to the people, it says we'll give you a courtesy reprint if you come to DPS and get your prints done there. But they don't want to drive to DPS, so they go get Officer 23-year-old to roll them in ink again, and they get rejected again. And they get mad at us when their fingerprints get rejected. I can tell you that up front. And I tell them every time I said I would go to a live scan location if you can't go to DPS. That's going to be your best bet to get them passed through.
Sure. In our rules and statutes, and I don't have this in front of me, so forgive me for kind of going off the cuff here. I thought I had seen something about fees being charged, and that we can charge fees for reprints. I'm not sure where that exactly is at because I don't have it in front of me. But I would like to discuss with the board members the possibility of implementing and utilizing that particular, I think Assistant Attorney General Monahan might be looking for that. I don't know. He's looking for something that we utilize and charge for these reprints so that the board is not eating the cost. So I'd like to discuss that with the board members at this time and possibly create a motion.
This is Vice Chair Moon. I'll just echo kind of just how hard it is to roll. We did it internally for the longest time at my agency and did switch just because it is, as David said, an art. And so I could see how expensive continuing to go this route would be.
Thank you for that.
Madam Chair, board members, it's Assistant Attorney General Seamus Monahan. Under your fees under 324227, there is a catch-all. The board shall charge additional fees for services not required to be provided by this chapter, but the board determines are necessary and appropriate to carry out this chapter. These fees shall not exceed the actual cost of providing these services. I think that gives you authority to charge, especially if their fingerprints are being rejected. The board should not be eating those costs.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Mr. Tapscott, do you have any comments or anything that you'd like to share regarding this?
Yeah, thank you for asking, because obviously lots of our students do this. No, I actually agree with all this. I would never want to put undue hardship, on future massage therapists, but this is very much a situation the board should not be eating this cost, and it tends to be when you use the live scan in a more, I don't want to say reputable, a more people that do this all the time. They will pay for the second prints if they have to, and we want to encourage the public to use the best fingerprinting place they can go to, because that helps not slow down licensure and everything. I agree with this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Mr. Roost?
I agree. I don't have anything to add. I agree with everything that's being said.
Well, we're on it today. Thank you. All right, then I would like to motion that moving forward, in the event that fingerprint cards have been rejected, that the fee necessary to send the cards out again be passed on to the applicant, effective immediately.
This is Board Member Durist, and I'll second that.
And a roll call vote, please.
Madam Chair, with your indulgence, before we do that, consistent with the current discussion, as of January 1st, House Bill 2438 will be in vogue. And anybody coming to the industry for the first time and approaching the schools will be required to get a level 1 fingerprint clearance card. So we're really only covering the remainder of the calendar months of this year, which I think is an advantage. And then, as will be explained on another date, because it's not posted for today, but as we get into the implementation of 2438, the inked fingerprint card is still required, and we'll talk about that later in the fall, I'm sure. I see the Attorney General shifting in his chair, so I'll stop right there. On the board vote, Board Member Tapscott?
Hold on. Aye.
Board Member DeRoost?
Aye.
Vice Chair Moon?
Aye.
Chair Ryder?
Aye.
4 votes.
The motion passes. Investigator Elson? That one?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I found one of the letters that we just forward to the people when they're rejected. And it says, alternatively, the applicant may bring this letter to the Arizona Department of Public Safety's Public Service Center between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday to be for a courtesy reprint.
Okay.
So
Very
if they just take that letter we send them, they can get it done for free at DPS.
Very good. Well, I think that will help a lot of people, especially those who have had to get reprints multiple times. Thank you for that information.
Sure.
Don't go far, Mr. Elson, because you are up once again. Possible action on monthly investigative activity report by the State Board Investigator, David Elson. Investigator David Elson, can you share with the board and the public the current status of submitted case investigations?
Yeah. So since the last board meeting, we've had 21 since Attorney General Monahan referred it back to investigations earlier. So there's 21 new cases, and we've closed 11 so far between the last board meeting and this board meeting. So 20 new and 11 of those 20 were closed. We processed 158 sets of fingerprints, and we are currently awaiting 90 from DPS.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Next, upon a vote of the majority of the quorum, the board may go into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A2 to discuss or consider records exempt by law from public inspection, including the receipt and discussion of information or testimony that is specifically required to be maintained confidential by state or federal law. We have already taken care of our formal hearing this morning, and we will be moving to our next one, which is, it looks like case number 22-214, Xiao Yang Zhan. I apologize if I have not said that name correctly. This is massage therapist license 11864, and Assistant Attorney Seamus Monahan. I believe you have something that, do we have a consent agreement for this one?
Yep, Madam Chair, Ms. Zhang sent in her license initially asking to surrender. I forwarded the information to the Assistant Attorney General Monahan. He drafted a voluntary surrender, which we sent Ms. Zhang, and she signed the voluntary surrender that's in your packet. So that one's here just for y'all to accept the signed consent agreement for voluntary surrender of her license.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, the court was nice enough in this, the prosecutor was nice enough in this matter to require the respondent to turn in her license to the board when she was convicted. So you were just accepting it, and we have to memorialize it. So.
Okay. And that would be through a motion, correct?
Correct.
All right, I move to accept the consent agreement and adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law in regards to license holder Xiaozhang Zhang MT 11864 in the interest of a prompt and judicious settlement of this case consistent with public interest, statutory requirements, and responsibilities of the Arizona State Board of Massage Therapy pursuant to 30 ARS 32-420. And may I have a second, please?
This is Board Member DeRusse, and I'll second that.
And a roll call vote, Mr. Augerton?
Yes, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Moon, Vice Chair Moon, are you still on the line?
I think we may have lost her.
Okay, I'll go ahead and we'll try again. Board Member Tapscott,
Aye.
Board Member DeRoost,
Aye.
Chair Ryder,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moon. Madam Chair, you have 3 present ayes and 1 absent.
Okay, the motion passes. Next on the agenda, license applications requiring public board review. This is case 22-188, Lan Hao. This is a preliminary review of the information available to the board at this time. Yes, Mr. Elson.
I think you skipped one, ma'am.
Did I?
You did.
Oh.
You skipped.
Oh, I sure did. I do apologize. I need to go back to the investigative reviews. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you for that. Apologies. Let me move back. This case is 22-199, Salvador Salas, massage therapist license 21414. This is a preliminary review of the information available to the board at this time. It is not a hearing. And I do believe I see Salvador Salas present at this meeting. Is that correct? Please go ahead and unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Thank you. And are you represented by counsel? And if so, whom?
No, ma'am. No counsel.
Okay, thank you. Investigator Mr. Elson, could you please provide a summary of the complaint against Salvador Salas?
Yes, Madam Chair. As a preliminary matter, I sent some letters of recommendation that were forwarded to me Friday by Mr. Salas for your review. Make sure y'all got those. I think there was 7. On May 1st, 2022, a complaint was received from SD stating that her personal trainer referred her to the respondent for deep tissue work. SD went to the appointment on the evening of 4/28, April 28th. He began working on her quads. She told him the pressure was too much, and he responded with "just breathe," is her words. SD stated when she left respondents, her left quad was really sore and throbbing. On the way home, SD could feel lumps in her leg. When she got home, it was swollen and severely bruised. She reached out to a respondent with symptoms, and he reassured her that it was normal. The next morning, the bruising was getting worse. By the afternoon, she went to the ER because she has a bleeding disorder. The doctor told her it was a hematoma. And on Saturday, she saw a different therapist because her leg was purple for a lymphatic massage. And the therapist saw her leg. She advised her it was not typical to be that well bruised. And I think I attached pictures of the bruising in y'all's packets.
Yes, you did. I just for reference, I don't believe I received the email with the references that you had mentioned before, Mr. Elson. I did not receive that.
He was late getting them to me long after the agenda was posted.
Okay.
I sent them to Tony this morning to be updated. It's just 7 letters of recommendation.
I see. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And do you have any other information that you would like to add at this time, Mr. Investigator?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry to cut in. I would ask the respondent if he would like the board to look at those letters, to see those letters of recommendation since he sent them in. If those
Yes,
could be sent supplementally.
sorry. Yes, I would like for them to take a look at them. In regards to my work, these are some of the clients that I've had for several years. And that was why they were able to write them, because it was in regards to the normal type of work that I perform on my clients.
Okay. Board staff, if you could make sure that all of the board members have the ability to obtain those letters of recommendation at this time, I would appreciate it. And then we will take a brief moment to take a look at those letters of recommendation before we proceed.
Madam Chair, while staff is doing that, if the board would like, we can go into executive session to discuss any legal questions you have right now regarding this case.
That would actually be great because I was going to ask for an executive session anyways. But before we do that, I would like to hear from Mr. Salas. At this time, Mr. Salas, do you wish to make a brief statement or present any other information at this time? And also, I do want to remind you that when you are referring to the complainant, to please only use the complainant's initials and not their first and last name.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, in regards to client SD, when we discussed medical history, when we discussed reasons why we should not be working or what type of work that we were doing, we had talked about previous surgeries and her reactions with things, but she never disclosed to me that she had a bleeding disorder until 2 days later when she sent me pictures from going to the ER, and she had stated I had to go to the ER because I have a bleeding disorder. But this was not disclosed to me, as I mentioned previously before doing the massage. Sorry, I was also going to talking to her. We did talk about the type of pressure that she had wanted. She didn't want heavy pressure, so I did start with lighter pressure, and the lack of pliability in her muscle tissue. And so in that was in my description of event, sending back that I was starting off at lighter pressure for her. Obviously, deep tissue work is not for people with bleeding disorders. And like I mentioned, she did not disclose that information prior to our session.
I have a question. Did you have the individual fill out an intake form or health history form prior to the work on her?
No, ma'am. All of that I do face-to-face at the session. So no, I did not have her fill out the prior history, medical history.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I move that the board members go into executive session to obtain legal advice.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I ask everyone to use the second code that was provided to you for the e-session?
Yes.
Thank you.
Could I get that texted to me?
Who's requesting? I'm sorry, is that?
Board Member Drews, could I get that texted to me? There's
Yes.
a delay in my email. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just going to wait a minute and make sure that we have all of our board members back. I see Bailey and Michael. Okay, so it looks like we have everybody back from the executive session. It is 10:30 a.m. We are resuming our meeting at this time. I would like to open the floor to the board members to discuss this particular case with Mr. Salas. And Mr. Salas, we did have an opportunity to review the letters that you had sent in. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'd like to defer first. I'm going to put you on the spot, Mr. Tapscott. Please share some of your thoughts regarding this particular case, and I will follow. We'll also get Mr. Roost and Ms. Moon to chime in as well.
Thank you. Mr. Salas, did the client SD mention during the massage that the pressure was too much? That's my big question.
Yes, not that I can recall of her mentioning it.
Okay.
It was a pre-massage where she had mentioned she did not like the heavy pressure, and I did inform her that I was going to start with a lighter pressure.
So she did not say the pressure is too much, and you did not say just breathe through it.
I say just breathe through it to my clients when they hold their breath and flex. And I tell them, breathe through it, breathe, don't tighten your muscles, because then it's worse. So I do tell my clients, and just about all of them will tell you, I say, just breathe. I do not recall her saying that the pressure was too much. But yes, I did say just breathe. And I'm sure I said it multiple times.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only question I have.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roost, do you have any questions for Ms. Salas, Mr. Salas at this time?
I don't have any questions for you right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Moon, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Mr. Salas?
For Mr. Salas, no questions at this time.
Okay. One of the things that is challenging regarding this case is that the complainant is not here. And there is very little documentation to support the complaint. From a standpoint of an industry professional, there are a couple things that I would like to state. One, although, and this is just information to share, in the state of Arizona, we are not required to have documentation, SOAP notes, or health intake forms. However, as an educator, I have always told my students to protect themselves and have clients fill out an intake form and take detailed documentation notes in the event that something just like this may happen. So we've got something that we can, work with. So that's one recommendation that I make. And it, like I said, it's not a legal recommendation. It is an opinion from an educator. So I strongly recommend that, moving forward, if a massage therapist is not doing intake forms or taking SOAP notes of their sessions, that they do that. That being said, because we don't have documentation to support a lot of what is now, I think, hearsay, I think we don't have too many options as far as reprimand. And so therefore, based on the information presented at this meeting and contained in the investigative report, I would like to discuss the option of continuing education hours in the category of ethics and communication related to the field of massage therapy. But I would like to discuss with the board members what you believe a fair amount of those hours would be in relationship to this case.
This is Vice Chair Moon. I'm I'm struggling a little bit with that because I just feel like this is a very one-sided situation since we haven't heard from the other side. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to give the complainant another opportunity to show up during one of these meetings.
Mr. Elson?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is, I think, the third time we've continued this to try to get a hold of somebody. And as I denoted in the report, I've left numerous voicemails on her cell phone. And in her cell phone, I even say, in her greeting, she identifies herself by name. So I know I'm getting the right person's voicemail. And she just won't call me back and she won't respond to emails.
Okay. I think we would also have the option of, so one, we could entertain hours of continuing education in the category of ethics and communication specifically. If there are other ideas from the other board members, I would love to hear them at this time.
This is Board Member Tapscott. I wouldn't entertain anything at this point. I just don't feel like we have enough to go on to then make recommendations based when we don't have SD present. It doesn't look like we're going to.
Do you think it'd be fair at this point to just dismiss this case, or is that an option, Assistant Attorney General Monahan?
Well, I was just going to tell the board, you can dismiss this matter without prejudice. And that way, if the complainant does ever decide to come back and respond, you can just reopen the complaint.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
This is Vice Chair Moon. I would agree to that as well. I'm just
okay.
Feel like we're putting too much into something that may not be an issue.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. That being said, would somebody like to make that motion?
This is Board Member Tapscott. I motion that we dismiss this case without prejudice. Right? Good. Thank you.
This is Chairwoman Ryder. I second that motion. And a roll call vote, please, Mr. Algerton.
You're muted, sir.
Thanks, Michael. Board Member DeRoost, I apologize.
Aye.
Vice Chair Moon,
Aye.
Board Member Tapscott,
Aye.
Chair Ryder,
Aye.
4 ayes.
The motion passes. This case is dismissed. Mr. Salas, have a good day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. Moving along. Mr. Elson, where am I on this agenda? Are we on case 22-214? Is that where we're at right now?
No, we're at 22-188.
22-188.
Lujan.
All right. Let me find it here. Here we go. All right. This is a preliminary review of the information available to the board at this time. It is not a hearing, and the board may consider granting or denying application for licensure for Lan Hao, case number 22-188. Is Lan Hao present in this meeting today?
I haven't seen him or her.
Okay. Investigator Elson, can you please provide a summary of the investigative review for Lan Hao?
Yes, Madam Chair. On March 8th, 2022, after a comprehensive fingerprint background check, the investigation revealed that on October 24th, 2019, the applicant was charged with prostitution by the Appleton, Wisconsin Police Department. Based on this information, the board conducted an investigation, which found that on the 24th, Applicant was arrested and charged with prostitution by the Appleton, Wisconsin Police Department in Appleton, Wisconsin. On April 30th, 2022, board staff received a letter from Alex Johnson, the Assistant District Attorney with the Outgame County, Wisconsin District Attorney's Office, stating the case against the applicant was declined to be prosecuted. The applicant, in a written statement, gave the following. I was in class, not on duty, but they asked everyone to go to the police office after I got back my workplace at the end. The state declined any charge to me. Please refer to the letter from the attorney's office. And that's the letter that I received from the district attorney's office. So she was arrested and charged with prostitution, but the prosecutor declined to press charges.
Okay.
Declined to prosecute.
Okay. I'm going to probably ask some more questions because I know that in this particular case, it's because of what came up in the investigation. In our board packet, you also included the application for massage therapy for this individual. Has the application and the requirements for the application been fulfilled?
Let me pull up the application real quick.
Sure. Because I saw, as I was looking at the application, not for referencing the previous allegations, but I just found that there were some inconsistencies that I want to make sure are correct.
Okay, I'm on the application. What can I?
Okay, so just to be clear, this is for an application for a regular Arizona massage therapy license. It is not a reciprocity or universal application.
They denote on the applications they wish to apply for a regular Arizona massage therapy license.
Okay. Then it is mentioned on there on the application that the individual is not a U.S. citizen.
Madam Chair, I think I get what you're driving at here. It doesn't appear that she has fully filled out her application. It's still deficient. So
Okay.
I would recommend that the board just take no action and staff can reach back out to her.
Okay, yes, that's what I was getting at. There's some things in there, just to note, on the application, it indicates when the individual attended school, which was January of 2019 through April of 2019, which, with the specific dates provided, were 91 days for a 750-hour program. And then secondly, I also want to make sure that the school that was indicated on the application we're able to receive transcripts from them. And again, this is all, part of the application process. But that's where I was seeing some inconsistencies with what was already filled out on the application. All right, so moving forward with this particular one, we'll have to table this until at least the next meeting, or actually we won't have to table it. We're just going to shoot this back over to the licensing processors, and please make sure that the application is complete and meets all of the requirements of the Arizona State Board of Massage Therapy.
Okay. No second. We don't need a second, just to take that. No action. Sorry.
No action.
Okay.
No action on this case for Lon Howe.
All right.
All right. And I believe the next case or the next review, this is where I am recusing myself, and it will be presented or led by Vice Chair Moon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for case number 22-238 for Taya Lloyd. I'm not sure if I see Taya on or not. Taya, are you
I'm
here?
on.
Okay, you are
I'm on. Okay.
Thank you so much. Do you should Taya start or Detective Elson?
I would let Detective Elson start, and then you can move on to Ms. Lloyd.
I keep getting promoted. Now I'm detective.
Investigator, sorry.
Let's see here. On July 28, 2022, board staff received a complaint indicating respondent was practicing and advertising licensed massage therapy via the internet. Based on this information, the board conducted an investigation. On August 2nd, 2022, board staff investigated the alleged advertisement and found the following. So I found some advertising saying that I'm a mobile massage therapist and will come to you, at home work, everything is provided with a price list for 60-minute relaxation for $45, 60-minute hot stone for $60, a 90-minute relaxation for $85. Just numerous. I only clipped y'all about 2 of them off the internet. And then on August 2nd, after finding this, I telephonically interviewed the respondent. Respondent admitted that she was advertising as a massage therapist. She admitted that she was a massage therapy student with Empower. When asked what campus she attended for Empower, either Tucson or Chandler, she advised that she had never been to a campus, that all she did so far was watch videos online, and that they were going to be sending her to Hand and Stone in the near future to do her hands-on work. But as of when I talked to her, she hadn't visited campus or actually spoke to another human being, so she was unaware that she couldn't advertise as a massage therapist and perform massage therapy while she was in school. She was going to go to Hand and Stone. She wasn't aware that she could practice as a student. She agreed to stop practicing and agreed voluntarily to come to the meeting because she would like to apply for a license in the future. And I'll let y'all ask her any questions you might have.
Thank you, investigator. Taya, is there anything that you would like to comment on this review to the board?
No, everything. Oh, can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm like on the phone. Yeah, no, everything sounds about right.
Thank you. Board members, excluding Chair Ryder, is there anything that you would like to ask Taya in regards to her solicitation for massage work?
Yeah, this is board member Tapscott. Miss Lloyd, so nobody at Empire told you you were able to practice as a massage therapist while you were a student?
They honestly didn't really say much. So like they said I couldn't practice, and even when like I was in the process of enrollment, they were just like, yeah, no, we could even do like we ship you out the table and then you could like massage someone via Zoom.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah, can you say that again? I'm so sorry. That was a lot of information there.
Sorry. So like even like before, so like I enrolled kind of, pandemic. So like even we were like in the process of finding me a location because like I move around like every 6 months. And then she was like, well, if you can go to a campus, then you could massage like via Zoom. So like have someone there, they ship out the table, and then they would just, I guess, critique me via Zoom.
Yeah, I understand. I think I understand that.
Okay.
Respectfully, I don't think I agree with it, but I understand it. So, but did somebody tell you you could open a massage practice as a student and charge for massage?
Sorry, what was that?
Well, you're kind of talking about them talking about practicing massage while somebody watches you. Did somebody tell you you could charge for massage? That you could open a business? Okay, that was just your idea. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's only questions I have.
Member Darius, do you have any questions or comments?
So this is board member Durst. Are you currently still practicing and charging for massages?
No, I stopped once I got the notice of complaint, and even before that, I stopped a little bit, but like took down the pages right when he contacted me.
And you are still currently in school?
Yes, I'm due to. Well, that's the thing. I'm not completely sure, but I was due to graduate in October.
With the plans of applying for an Arizona license?
State license, yes.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
So I have a question for Taya. Beyond the notification, was there any concerns that you had regarding soliciting a massage and charging? Did you honestly think that this was something that you could do? Was there any encouragement from Empower or any groups that were encouraging this kind of practice? I'm confused as far as your intent to do this and where it came from.
I would just say, like, when I'm in like a lot of groups, and say like cosmetology students practice and like charts. So like even being like on TikTok, like I think you guys kind of like talked about it earlier too, how like just like a lot of students practice and like charge. Like I know it's like a different category, but like I said, cosmetology, I'm trying to think of like anything else, like eyebrows, like stuff like that.
Okay. I think this is a comment, or I have a comment for the board of I'm a little concerned for our presentation of this trend of being able to charge and starting to practice while students, I think it was Utah, and kind of member Tapscott's statement of not wanting, we do want to assure public health and safety. And so it just reminded me of what we heard in our presentation. I'm also concerned combining practicing versus soliciting and selling a service seems to be mixed together. And I think there is a significant difference of practicing on someone, having a proctor or educator in the room or via Zoom versus soliciting on social or any other ways a service as a student.
This is Chairperson Tapscott. Yeah, I agree with all those comments. Ms. Lloyd, I have one more question. I'm sorry, I just thought of this. Why get a license if you don't really need one, if you could just start charging? Like, why go to school?
To make sure you're not, like, how's I going to put it? To make sure you're not hurting anyone and to really know what you're doing, like studying, getting those hours. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your honesty, but that's my big concern. And my comment to the board too is ignorance of the law is not a defense. And and that's why we have massage licenses.
Madam Chair, board members, I think historically, this is Assistant Attorney General Seamus Monahan, just to kind of provide you some bumpers. I think that historically, especially since we don't have jurisdiction over Ms. Lloyd right now, what the board has done, especially since she's admitted that she quit immediately, would be to not issue a cease and desist order, but a letter and that way it could go in her file. And then when she does apply for licensure, the board could always take the matter back up. And if there's anything else that needs to be done in order to grant licensure, you could do it at that time. Thank you.
This is Vice Chair Moon. I agree on that. Tapscott or Darius, do you guys have any comments, or would either of you like to make a motion?
I don't have any comments. And just for clarity, the motion is to give her a letter.
Yes, it'd be to issue a letter of cease and desist.
To issue a letter of cease and desist. Okay. Board Member Tapscott, do you have anything else? I didn't want to make a motion if you were.
I appreciate, no, you go ahead. But for clarity's sake, we don't need a cease and desist to occur. We're doing this to create a record. Is that correct?
Well, for two purposes. If she were to go back out and start practicing tomorrow, she would now have that letter, and then you could issue a cease and desist order at that time. But it also does memorialize it for the board's purposes.
That's what I would want. It's just a record of this for later consideration. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I make a motion to a letter for record. But I don't, sorry, for my clarity, I don't need to add the cease and desist, right? That's just if we wanted to add that on.
No, you just say a letter of cease and desist.
Oh, it is still, sorry. I think I was getting confused that they were two separate. I'm with you. All right, so I make a motion to submit a letter of cease and desist.
Okay.
Vice Chair Moon, I'll second that motion.
And that's for practicing without a license?
Yeah, for practicing without a license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Board Member Tapscott?
Aye.
Board Member DeRoost?
Aye.
Vice Chair Moon?
Aye.
3 ayes, 1 abstention.
All right, moving on to the next portion of our agenda. Thank you, Ms. Moon, by the way. The next case is Danny Shan, case number 21-128, massage therapist 26073. This is a preliminary review of the information available to the board at this time. It is not a hearing, and the board may consider honoring or denying the petition. Is Mr. Shan present at this meeting? And I will take the silence as a no. I thought Mr. Shan was going to be at this meeting, but I will move forward. Mr. Investigator Elson, would you please present and summarize the information regarding massage therapist Danny Shan?
Sure. Let's see here. Let me get to it real quick. So Mr. Shan was given a consent agreement and signed a consent agreement I think that y'all should have for probation. In case number 21-128, he signed a consent agreement and order for probation. In that consent agreement, he was ordered to be on probation for 2 years, and within 12 months of the effective date of the consent agreement, respondent was to complete 12 hours of education, which must include courses cover the following subjects: ethics and business practices, 6 hours in the area of ethics and 6 hours in the area of business practices. In Mr. Shan's letter to the board, he asked the board to cut his probation down to 1 year because he served 1 year. He did pay his $500 fine, and he asked the board to accept he stated that he got his master's degree and asked the board to accept his continuing education on his master's degree as his continuing education for the board.
Madam Chair, this is Assistant Attorney General Seamus Monahan. I'm just going to jump in here real quick. I'm the one who negotiated this consent agreement. It came out of a formal hearing in lieu of the formal hearing, but it was at that posture. The background in this case is that Mr. Shan was knowingly hiring unlicensed massage therapists from California. And his stated reason was that the board was not helping him in licensing people fast enough. And so he had no other choice. He also didn't show very much remorse about why he did that. You know, he felt that it was his business and he needed to keep it running. Furthermore, there were injuries that occurred because of those individuals who were unlicensed at that facility. And due to that fact, the state, again, it's up to the board, but the state would not recommend allowing Mr. Shan to terminate his probation early, since the hours that he was supposed to take related specifically to the actions and violations that he committed against the board. So, you know, if the board would like to review his, you know, any education from Stanford that he has and apply it to that, you may absolutely do that. But I'm not sure how much of it actually pertains to the violations and the issues that the board was trying to rehabilitate.
Thank you for that, Seamus. I agree based on the information that was given to us. I am not compelled to waive any probation. And I understand that the continuing education hours were to be done in a certain period of time, which technically, if we were to honor the schooling that he obtained, that it would have been done within the time frame. However, I personally do not see that schooling is sufficient for what the charges were originally. And I'm not willing to budge on vacating the original rule of the previous board.
Well, Madam Chair, you are absolutely correct. This Assistant Attorney General Seamus Monahan. Mr. Shan has violated his consent agreement, and in lieu of getting out of violating his consent agreement, has submitted a letter to the board to release him from the continuing education requirements based on past schooling. It is the state's contention that he has violated that order. So
he's asking, I found the letter. He's actually asking to waive, his exact words. I had a board probation order and request to waive the continued education requirement because he attended a formal hearing at the board. I completed my master's degree in education at the end of the year, which should have qualified the continuing education requirements.
And again, Madam Chair, I apologize for speaking more than I probably should. However, Mr. Shan was found to have violated and put public health and safety at risk. A degree from Stanford is not continuing education in the areas that the board identified that created risks to the public health and safety.
I agree. And also, according to our rules and statutes, any continuing education is to be brought to the board for approval first. And that approval, as far as I know, was not obtained regarding the schooling that he's suggesting that should be sufficient. Other board members, do you have any comments on this one?
This is Board Member Tapscott. I just want to ask some clarifying questions. So if he has violated his agreement, what does that mean?
Thank you. That's a great question. This is Assistant Attorney General Seamus Monahan. That means that the board can direct staff to open a complaint right now. It appears also that, from my understanding, David, please correct me if I'm wrong, but he paid his civil penalty late as well, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So
that's what I was just going to ask is everything was late. The date he signed his consent agreement was 7/9 of 2021. To date, we have no continuing education as ordered in the original order. We have no continuing education. His fine was late. So he's in violation of this board order.
So the board could, you could direct board staff to open a complaint against Mr. Shan for violation of the board order and deny the early termination.
Well, I would surely be for denying the early termination and directing staff to open a complaint that he violated this order. I'm extremely concerned that we have somebody who's not present, paid their payment late, didn't take their CEUs, harmed the public, and doesn't seem to be their behavior seems to show they're not taking it seriously. So I'm strongly in favor of opening this up as a complaint.
I am in favor of that as well, Mr. Tapscott. Like to hear from Ms. Moon and Ms. DeRoost, if we concur.
Yeah, yes, Vice Chair Moon, I agree. It seems like there is a flippant person that's not taking our actions or our requests seriously, and I think we need to assure that people are taking what we're asking of them to do very seriously.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think it's incredible that he would ask for early probation when he hasn't even abided by any of the rest of the terms. So I'm in agreement.
I agree. Massage therapy is, a very serious industry, and I think that sometimes people just don't take it seriously enough. So, Mr. Tapscott, if you would like to create that motion and unmute.
Thank you. Yes, I make the motion that we direct the board staff to open this as a complaint that this individual violated their agreement.
And would that also be deny early termination of the board?
And absolutely to also deny early termination. Thank you for clarifying.
I second that motion. And could we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Moon,
Aye.
Board Member DeRoost,
Aye.
Board Member Tapscott,
Aye.
Chair Ryder,
Aye.
4 ayes.
The motion passes. Thank you. We are coming towards the end of our agenda, but fear not, I've got plenty left to talk about. So at this point, discussion and possible action items for future massage board agendas. At our next meeting on Monday, September 26th, I would like to discuss with the board members a couple of different topics. The first will require some homework from each of us, as the discussion will be regarding our interpretation of the requirements for reciprocity and universal licensing applications. If the board staff, including the executive director and assistant attorney general, could please forward any information to the board members of existing legislation, statutes, and rules regarding reciprocity and universal licensing requirements, that would be incredibly helpful. Some information that's easily accessible tends to lead down a specific rabbit hole. So I want to make sure that we're all reading the same information. And I would also like for the board members to compare the information that we receive with what is currently on our licensing applications to make sure that it is consistent. So that I would like to add for discussion. The next item that I would like to add is one from our sunset audit. And one of the recommendations was to give the executive director authority to close cases. There was a very specific recommendation that I would like to discuss with the board staff that maybe some other boards do. But that's something that I think should be discussed and modified so that we're in compliance. In addition, I'm not done yet. I would like to request, if it is appropriate, to include executive director's report that may include board budgeting information, even shortcomings that may be beneficial for our license holders. I know that information is often made public. However, many folks don't actually know where to find it or let alone know how to read it. I would like to discuss this with the board members at our next meeting about perhaps making this a regular feature on our agenda, as we already do with the investigative reports. I would also like to discuss with the board members about implementation of submitting a current driver's license or state ID with each renewal. I think we already do that with our initial applications, but I think with renewals, that I would like to discuss that as well. We are hopeful to have a review by the Assistant Attorney General's office regarding the implementation of HB 2438, which is the requirement of a level 1 fingerprint clearance cards for all massage therapists beginning January 1st of 2023. So we're hoping to have that review at our next board meeting. That will be posted on the agenda if it is available at that time.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just as a matter of course, we do not share the legislative memo with anybody but the board members. So
Okay.
if there are questions on it, then that would be a time to go into executive session.
Of course. I think one of the things that we had discussed previously, and it may not come from you, I think it'll just be a board discussion of what is found and how that affects the board business with licensing. I would encourage all of the massage therapists on this call to share with your colleagues, massage business owners, educators in schools, to consider attending our next meeting in September, as we may have more information regarding that bill. That was a lot. Are there any other items that the board members would like to add to the next agenda?
This is Board Member Tapscott. I won't dare add another item. I just want to, and not because there are too many. I do want to fully support discussing the fingerprint clearance card because of the reasons that we have all these changes going into effect and giving people time to adapt to them. So yes, it's becoming time sensitive. So I'm looking forward to that. That's
yes.
it.
And I know that we wanted to give the Attorney General's office time to vet the bill. And we have been told that after Labor Day, that we will have some more information that we can share with the public. All
Madam
right.
Chair,
Yes.
do you want to promo the speaker for the next meeting since you're giving an outline?
Yes, as a matter of fact. We will be having a representative from FSMTB joining us in our September meeting to go over the Interstate Compact. And although Arizona is not part of that compact, I think it would be very interesting to find out some details as far as, why the Interstate Compact could be a good thing across the United States. So as far as I know right now, I believe the gentleman who will be presenting on that, his name is Matt Schaefer from FSMTB.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, just a quick correction. He's with the Council of State Governments.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for the next board meeting? All right. Our next board meeting date is Monday, September 26, 2022 at 9 a.m. to be held digitally online. Thank you for coming. This concludes the meeting. Thank you for attendance. We are adjourned.